Okay, anytime, Eric? Yeah, go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Primary Questions. Is it hot in here or is it me? That's really something I say every day, but don't get me started on that. Hey, by the way, here's some of the great folks on our technical crew who help me every single day on the CBS Evening News. Say hi, you guys. You're on YouTube. It's very exciting. Maybe 2 people can see you. Excellent. Hopefully we'll get more hits than that. What do you think? You're going to log on, right? Okay, good. See, they're well trained. Anyway, you know, one of the questions we asked folks is the worst piece of advice they've ever given someone. A couple of the candidates were completely dumbfounded and couldn't think of an answer. So we switched it midstream because obviously if they couldn't come up with any answer, that didn't do us much good. So for those who couldn't think of the worst advice they've ever given someone else, we asked them about the worst advice they've been given by someone else, and here's what the candidates had to say.
The worst advice that I've given to myself was when the Confederate flag was flying over the state capitol in South Carolina, and I decided that I would say that's not an issue that I should be involved in, that it should be decided by the people of the state of South Carolina. I knew that it was a symbol that was very offensive to many people. And afterwards I went back and apologized, but it was needless to say, by saying that I wouldn't have anything to do with an issue like that was an act of cowardice.
Did someone advise you, Senator, to do that?
Yes. Yes, but that doesn't mean I should have taken it. I should have known better.
Let's see. Well, it's typically around personal things, like, you know, you really ought to get close to this person. That's the one for you. You ought to marry this person. You know, I'm not always right in that kind of personal.
Not a good matchmaker.
I haven't been a great matchmaker. You know, I do. Yeah, I can think of some of the good advice. It's funny. It's like golf. As you ask these questions, you see, when you play golf, and I don't play very often, a couple times a year. Your bad shots you forget. The good shots you remember forever. So I can think of some great advice I've given, but there have been times when I've said to people, you know, I think you ought to get to know this person, and it didn't work out.
The worst piece of advice that I have given to anybody was to my younger sister. She's 9 years younger than me. And I think that I once told her that she should, well, no, actually, I probably shouldn't tell that story. You know what? I'm
Why?
sorry. No. You know what?
Well, your sister's going to be mad.
Well, right, exactly. Let me pull back on that. I thought of a good story, but I think it's too personal.
What did you tell your sister? Not to marry her husband or something? Now he'll be mad, too.
Right, something? No.
Oh, these are impossible. The worst piece of advice I've ever given someone. I remember when I had a case as a lawyer where I represented a family. I won't go through all the circumstances. And because I thought the case was going well, I said to them that they should not, in my judgment, accept a settlement that had been offered. And we lost. We lost the case. And I was just dead wrong. That's the thing that pops to my mind.
And what did you tell them to do?
I told them to go forward and let the jury decide the case. I thought we would win, and we didn't, and I was wrong about that.
What's the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
Well, there was an old lawyer down in the little hometown that I started practicing law in. And I had wanderlust. I'd been practicing there for 2 years. I had a chance to become assistant U.S. attorney and come to Nashville and prosecute criminal cases for the federal government. He advised me against doing that. He said, you're going to mess up your law practice. You're just getting acquainted with the judges now. You need to stay here and build your law practice and so forth. And, I say that it was worst advice because from a career standpoint, I've had a chance to do things that I never dreamed that I'd have a chance of doing. But I must quickly say that you never know about the road not taken. And I could have probably been very happy just being a country lawyer the way I had planned on being.
Oh, I've had so much bad advice. When you're in my position, it's kind of like your position. I get a lot of advice. I mean, I've gotten lots of bad advice about various hairstyles. Oh, you've got to try this. Certain fashion mistakes that I've lived with because they're immortalized in pictures.
Your Mamie Eisenhower era,
Oh,
for
yeah.
example.
I know. I mean, I never really was frankly all that knowledgeable about what you might call style before I got thrust into the public spotlight. And so I was given and took a lot of bad advice over a number of years.
Two of my very closest friends urged me not to run for mayor of New York City. And they told me I couldn't win. And then when I started winning, the friend that I'm thinking about, Jay Waldman, he called me up and he said, now I have really bad news for you. You are going to win. And the job is undoable. And it turned out that, well, thank God that was, bad advice. And they were only looking out for my best interests, I guess. And they also were looking at how impossible it was, they thought, to run a major city, in particular New York City, where books were written. It was ungovernable, unmanageable. And they felt that I was jeopardizing any career I had by running for mayor of New York City. And they advised me against it in pretty strong terms.
In my very first campaign, I allowed some political consultants to kind of talk me into an ad strategy that I really wasn't that comfortable with. It was in a race against Dale Bumpers, who was a United States Senator. He had voted on some funding that funded some really hideous projects in the National Endowment for the Arts. The way the ad was done, we didn't accuse him of personally liking it, but the fact that he had voted to fund this stuff. Well, it came across, and he was able then to say that I had accused him of essentially being a pornographer, which I did not. But I learned a valuable lesson. It didn't work out, and I vowed then I would never, ever again allow my campaign, whenever, and whatever the cost, to engage in a message that I personally couldn't feel good about. And my campaigns have been very less consultant-oriented and consultant-driven. I think it's a strength. It's about me, because I found out something. When the campaign's over, if you lose, the consultants are all gone. And if you win, they're going to get their check and tell everybody they did it. But the point is, the candidate ultimately is going to be responsible for what goes out there.